HMOs have been criticized by patients and condemned by lawmakers. Now they are being attacked in an all-out war, and one man is leading the charge. He is Dickie Scruggs, symbol of America's love affair with litigation, a fighter pilot turned attorney who picks big targets. Best known for beating down big tobacco, Dickie Scruggs now has in his sights the country's largest HMOs, saying they are guilty of fraud and racketeering because they put profits before patients. He's filed massive class action lawsuits on behalf of the 32 million people represented by these companies. In fact, you may be one of his clients and not even know it.
If it were any other industry that was promising what they promised and delivered what they delivered, they would be not only sued out of existence, but prosecuted by every attorney general in the country.
Dickie Scruggs may look like just another lawyer, but to the companies he is suing, he is something else entirely.
That's what we've set out to do, force this industry to change the way it does business or pay back its profits.
He is terrifying.
America's richest trial lawyers are circling, and your health plan is the bait.
He was the inspiration for the shark in this commercial, put together by an HMO lobbying group. Anyone who knows his track record knows the fear of Dickie Scruggs is well-founded.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth?
Remember these guys? They were up against him in his last big case. Scruggs took on tobacco by putting together an armada of law firms and suing cigarette makers for the cost of smokers' health care. He was joined in the suit by his longtime friend, Mississippi Attorney General Mike Moore. Eventually, other states followed, and by the time the smoke cleared, Big Tobacco had lost big.
The tobacco company agreed to pay what?
On the order of $150 billion.
Your firm took what, about $900 million?
About $900 million, that's correct.
And to those people who say, this is way too much for the lawyers to make, you say what?
If I took that money and just went to the South Pacific and did nothing else with it, I think it would be a very valid criticism. What it has enabled us to do, though, it's given us a means to level the playing field with corporate America. Up until now, we didn't have a war chest that could stay with them, and now we do.
Dickie Scruggs now works in a world of private jets and personal pilots, traveling the country, making his case against HMOs.
Everybody says, you know, there's nothing they can do about it. So.
Doctor, there is something that can be done about it. You just got to find a lawyer that's willing to do it. That's all. I'm sorry.
Dickie Scruggs is more than willing. He's put together an army of law firms and filed suit against some of the biggest HMOs in America: United, Cigna, Pacific Care, Humana, and Aetna.
First of all, many of them practice just garden variety consumer fraud. They promise to deliver quality health care, and they just don't deliver. They never have any intention of delivering. They jack around their patients. They make them jump through all sorts of hoops before they pay the bill. Hopefully they can drive the patient out of their system if he's sick and into somebody else's plan.
That's one.
That's one. The other is that they're practicing medicine. They hire doctors, they put doctors on their payroll, and then they tell doctors what they can and cannot treat. And third, they've corrupted the practice of medicine by using financial incentives to force doctors to undertreat their patients.
When you get down to the real policy issues, who pays, who gains, who loses?
Karen Ignani heads the country's largest HMO lobbying group.
If you listen to Mr. Scruggs' prescription, what he says is, let's take the incentives away from the health plans and the way they do it now in the system, and let's put the patients in charge. Exactly. What he doesn't say is, in doing that, he puts the patients at risk, because suddenly the patients bear the costs of rising costs. They bear the responsibility. No longer does the health plan act as the shield for that. I think consumers are going to be horrified when they hear that as the prescription.
But Dickie Scruggs is betting millions he knows what Americans want. He can afford to. He's already made more money than most lawyers earn in many lifetimes. Not bad for a kid who grew up poor in Pascagoula, Mississippi.
You ever think you'd be flying around on your own plane?
No. No, I never dreamed that I'd be flying around in a Learjet or a Falcon or talking to Dan Rather on 60 Minutes too. Nobody would have made me believe that would ever happen.
This is a Bentley.
It's a Bentley. Bought it about a year and a half ago.
Dickie Scruggs isn't hard to spot in his $200,000 car.
There's a lot to be said for growing up in a small town. You know everybody, they know you.
In his hometown's working-class neighborhoods, he got his first legal break when a shipyard worker asked for his help in an asbestos case.
I ended up sending him to a doctor, getting him tested, and before I knew it, there were 5 shipyard workers a day, then 10, then maybe dozens every day showing up in my office.
That was the biggest case by far you'd had.
Oh, by far. You got the fate of 7,000 people in your hands in one trial. It's intimidating.
And that brought you to tobacco?
That gave me the confidence to take on tobacco.
His big win against Big Tobacco has become so famous that even his house has gone Hollywood, used as a location for the movie The Insider.
Jail. Possibly, yes. That is one of the possible consequences of your testifying here today. That's right.
Scruggs auditioned to play himself in the film, but didn't make the cut. He has more clout here on Wall Street, where he has been meeting with big HMO investors. His critics say he's telling them how much his case is going to cost the industry as part of a clever plan to drive down stock prices and bring the big companies to the bargaining table.
We're trying to go directly to the people who have the big financial stakes in these companies.
Scare them into a settlement? Too strong?
Scare them, actually, I hate to use the word scare them.
Well, when I talk to the company representatives, they say, let's scare tactics, straight out. That's what it is.
Well, if they're scared, it's only because the companies are doing a poor job convincing their investors that they're doing the right thing. This is a huge mismatch for me as a trial lawyer from Mississippi to be talking to a bunch of Wall Street investors when they have the best and brightest minds on Wall Street defending their position. If I can scare them, then there's a reason for them to be scared.
Well, wait a minute, though. That's a little like that fellow walks in the pool hall and says, which end of this cue stick do you use? You don't need to be afraid of me. You've taken the asbestos people down. You've taken the tobacco company down. I mean, you're a major slayer.
Well, I don't think that I've taken these companies down. We've provided relief for our clients, and we've reformed some major public health issues in the United States with tobacco and with asbestos. And we're going to try to do it here.
Dickie Scruggs is also working Washington, D.C., pushing for a patient's Bill of Rights that spells out what HMO customers can expect: the right to a second opinion, the right to see specialists, and the right to sue. The fight over the patient's Bill of Rights has already gone on for years, and it's drawn lobbyists like these on all sides. Republican Congressman Charles Norwood says part of the holdup is fear of big trial lawyers like Dickie Scruggs.
He's a trial lawyer trying to get into another big suit. I mean, he's made $300 million in asbestos and tobacco, and now he doesn't have anything to do, so he wants to supplant Congress. Well, we don't need any help. Thank you so much, Mr. Scruggs. We'll take care of business right up here.
Mississippi Attorney General Mike Moore has been Dickie Scruggs' friend for 20 years.
In HMOs, he really thinks the end game here is going to be to change the healthcare system in our country for the better, and he really doesn't care if he ever makes a single penny. I mean, nobody would ever believe that, but this is not about money. This is about, at this point in his life, making a difference.
Moore and Scruggs met as law students on the campus of Ole Miss, where Scruggs says they learned about the power of the law to change social policy.
There's an old saying that the Battle of Waterloo was won on the playing fields of Eton, and perhaps that the tobacco war was won at the law school at Ole Miss, because it was started by lawyers who were in the same class at this law school. I think there's a populist tradition in the South. Most people here are poor, black and white, victimized and stigmatized. And I think that that I'm perhaps just a product of that environment. There's an old saying, I think, from Inherit the Wind about reporters. They're here to afflict the comfortable and to comfort the afflicted. And I love that line because I sort of see that as my role as well, and the role of lawyers.
What draws you to these complicated cases? Listen, asbestos, when you took it home, was an enormously complicated case. The tobacco case, hugely complicated. Here, this HMO thing may be the most complicated at all. Do you ever find yourself saying, you know, maybe I ought to take something a little simpler for a while.
Actually, I don't look at these cases as complicated. I think that the more complicated they appear, really, the simpler they are. I think tobacco was fairly simple. I mean, they were selling an addictive product to kids and getting them started before they really were of an age of consent. And that was the core of our claim against them. These folks are just doing an ordinary garden variety bait and switch, consumer fraud, promising one thing, delivering another, and then screwing around with the doctors to try to keep their costs down. They're really simple. Nothing's new under the sun. You can disguise it and dress it up and camouflage it, but usually these cases are not that complicated.
In 29 years of marriage, Diane Scruggs says the biggest complications have come when her husband has been between cases.
That when you gear yourself up to a trial or to an issue like tobacco, and all of your time and all of your energy for years is on this, and then you settle, and you wake up the next day and you don't have a reason to get up. You don't have a war to fight. It's a letdown, and during those times are the times that stress has come into our family more than in the actual battle. It's after. It's after.
Well, now the warrior has a new war.
Mm-hmm. So he's happy. He's on a mission. He's happy. Mm-hmm.
He says he's a soldier for the little guy who just happens to go to battle in a limo. If that makes him an easy target, he's tough enough to take the hit.
Why do you think people say such bad things about you? And you said you're proud of your accomplishments, but are there people who see you as a bad guy?
I'm sort of proud of the people who say I'm a bad guy. Some of these big industry groups that want to be free to abuse their workers or to abuse their customers. I'm delighted that they have made me their poster boy. I'll take that as a high compliment.